So, a possible Japanese Bitcoin liquidation may be upon us, as the Bitcoins from the customers of Mt.Gox 7 years ago may finally be returned to those customers. This and more on DEGEN News from DEGENs for a Brighter Future.
Welcome to DEGENs for a Brighter Future. Come join the degeneracy.
So before we dive into all of this Bitcoin that may possibly be entering the market, we first have to understand what Mt.Gox is. So Mt.Gox is a company that was founded in 2006 by Jeb McCaleb in Shibuya, Tokyo, Japan. In 2006, he simply wanted to create a website that would allow the users of Magic the Gathering Online to be able to exchange, trade, and buy each other's cards, hence the name Mt.Gox. Now, when this happened, he did enjoy the project, but found that it was perhaps beneath him, and he wanted to do something that was more innovative. He found a website called slash.com and read an article about Bitcoin at the time. He was enthralled about the concept of decentralized money that was trustless and permissionless, and thought it was amazing. He wanted to buy some, but at the time, the choices to buy were extremely limited, and so it was at that moment that he decided to take the Mt.Gox name and create one of the original Bitcoin exchanges. Now, while this was a fast-growing website, it was short-lived for Jeb McCaleb, as he thought Bitcoin, or probably still believes that Bitcoin is an important innovation, and thought that the website itself was incredibly important. He wanted to try and experiment with new programming applications of his own and work with different teams, and so he would sell it to Mark Karpeles, a French programmer, in 2011. However, Jeb McCaleb does and still continues to make a name for himself, as he worked with XRP, and then after he became the CTO of Stellar Lumens. So suffice to say, he still is a big name in the industry. Now, when Mark Karpeles took over in 2011, Mt.Gox would explode in popularity. In fact, at the peak of its time, it was handling 70% of the trading volume of Bitcoin. However, unfortunately, due to hacks, mismanagement, and even later on pleading to inflating assets on the portfolio of Mt.Gox, the company would lose over 850,000 Bitcoins, or in today's value, $17 billion as of recording this video. So this was a very difficult thing to go through, especially for the customers and anybody who is affiliated with Mt.Gox. Now, reportedly, there's under 140,000 Bitcoins that may be returned to customers and possibly hit the market. And so now we will be exploring that. So will $3 billion of Bitcoin being released from Mt.Gox make the market bottom in early August? That is the billion-dollar question, though the answer might be more nuanced than what you expect. So there's about 137,000 Bitcoins left over from the Mt.Gox situation. Keep in mind that in 2014, the total left over was 200,000 Bitcoin, and now this total sits at 137,000. So at least 63,000 were sold to try to cover certain creditors at that time. Also remember that this is the same company that lost 850,000 Bitcoin, which is $17 billion. So whole lot of numbers, whole lot of money lost, and some people might finally be getting whole. In 2021, in November, Mt.Gox released a rehabilitation plan with the intention of trying to get money back to the account holders and creditors who were involved with Mt.Gox. In July 6, 2022, Nobuki Kobayashi sent out an email to account holders of Mt.Gox as well as other creditors involved that they can receive funds in USD, Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin, of course. And all of this could be hitting their accounts as early as August. So we could be seeing this influence in the market very, very, very soon. Now, Miles Deutsche already talked about this on Twitter. If you don't know who Miles Deutsche is, he is just a brilliant, bright young man who digs into DeFi projects as well as crypto projects in general really well. Highly recommend you follow him. So as he mentions here, there is a lot of FUD that when this Bitcoin hits the market, it's going to get dumped and force the price down. So there's definitely fear out there. However, some of these fears might be unfounded, as a long time ago, many of these creditors were offered $600 to $1,300 if they wanted those funds now. So that was what Mt.Gox was able to afford the creditors and account holders early on when Mt.Gox was shut down. So these people would no longer be eligible to receive these funds at their new appreciated prices. So keep that in mind. There might not be as many people dumping as expected. So back then, managing director Michael Hurrigan, who is managing Fortress, which is handling all of this, said, rather than waiting another 1 to 1.5 years, we are offering liquidity options for creditors who want to receive cash or Bitcoin now. So those people got it early, and to their dismay, Bitcoin is much higher right now. So anyways, so furthermore, another speculation is that some of these creditors and or account holders of Mt.Gox might be strong believers of Bitcoin now. They've watched this asset that they believed in soar from the prices back then, which were anywhere between $100 to $1,000, all the way to $69,000, and now they're receiving an asset that is a little over 60% below its high. Or actually, no, it's more than that. It's 70%? Anyways, sorry, bad math in my head. But the point is that they have the option of receiving and selling now, or if they have conviction in Bitcoin, being, holding it in cold storage, which is basically holding it in a physical wallet that is disconnected from the internet for a longer period of time. So suffice to say, there's going to be a lot of diversity as to what these people do. Granted, if you had, say, one Bitcoin at the time and it was $100 and now it's $21,000 and you're just getting an email and you received one entire Bitcoin or even half a Bitcoin, that's a lot of money for some people. So I don't know, we might see a lot of selling. Now, what if hypothetically all 137 Bitcoins are liquidated? So we do have some historical evidence. In 2018, Kobayashi actually liquidated 24,658 Bitcoin in 2018, and this was shortly after the bull run. And if we actually look at the chart that they presented in this article, you can see that right around here they sold, and we just saw a dip to these bottoms in 2019. So it was definitely a catalyst that pushed the market down at the time. When we go over this, it says here, should the release of the remaining Mt.Gox funds have a similar effect on the price of Bitcoin, it would drop below $10,000. However, in recent months, there has been an equal sell pressure of Bitcoin from parties such as the Luna Foundation Guard, Three Arrows Capital, and even Bitcoin miners, and the prices held up pretty well, all things considered. I mean, there's even some stocks that have performed way worse than Bitcoin as the market started correcting. So we might not see as much of a dip as possible. And there's also the possibility that when Bitcoin hits a certain price, there's typically traders who have buy orders set at certain prices, and we could see large amounts of liquidity flow in. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but if you're entering this market now, or if you're already a participant, it's important to understand what is going on in and out of the market. So keep that in mind. One last thing that I forgot to mention, one of the more interesting takes on what is going on here is that this may, perhaps according to the ETH maxis, or just general crypto people, this could be the beginning of the flippening. And for those of you who are not familiar with the flippening that are watching, it's the speculated concept that the market cap of Ethereum will one day grow larger than Bitcoin. Now, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility, I think. Now, the concept would be that if Bitcoin's sell pressure was so high and it fell to $10,000, that Ethereum's price would just have to rise by 30% from its current prices, and therefore its market cap would become larger than Bitcoin's. Now, this is just what I think, and I'm not 100% sure. But I think if people who are in the crypto space see Bitcoin dumping like crazy, they just start dumping, typically people start dumping their cryptocurrency, whether that's Bitcoin, ETH, or whatever. So I guess it's like kind of a game of stalemate to see which maximalists are buying more of their own coin as they watch it dip. So we will see. Now, what do I think about all this information with Mt.Gox and all this Bitcoin that's possibly entering the market? Well, if I'm being honest, it's just something that you might want to keep in mind if you're entering this market dollar cost averaging or just wanting to know the ins and outs. But quite frankly, for all these people who were affected by the Mt.Gox crash, I really hope that they get whole. It's amazing watching all these people go through so much pain with Celsius, Voyager, and any other crypto service that had to pause withdrawals or halt trading. And I really hope that they get some kind of compensation out of this. Now, that being said, the other thing I think this article doesn't take into account is while that is a lot of Bitcoin entering the market, there's also way more participants, so much more liquidity, and countries that are in. Now, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't see a dump in the price, but suffice to say that things are much more complex than they were back then. There's people with buy orders right now under the 20,000 level, under the 17, under 16, under 15 that are just waiting for the market to fall so those can activate. So there's a strong possibility that there's more liquidity and more participants than before, and therefore, although we might see a dump, maybe it might not be lasting forever, it might just be a small dump, who knows? But either way, it's good to hedge and manage your risk with this information. We also got the luxury of knowing that probably, maybe, as soon as early August, this Bitcoins could hit the market. So do with that information what you will. Now, nothing here is financial advice, but I've always enjoyed the quote from Warren Buffett, which is be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. It might be the other way around, but you get the point. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, please consider subscribing, following us on Twitter. You can also check out our other socials down below. Thank you so much for watching, and DEGEN safely. Thank you.
Well.